stuff like that. Okay. Good morning. I call to order the March 14th, 2023 Saline County Commission meeting to order. Will the clerk call the roll?
Commissioner Hay?
Here.
Commissioner Shadwick?
Here.
Commissioner Sparks?
Here.
Commissioner Vidrickson? Commissioner Weiss?
Here. I'd ask that you all stand and join me in the flag salute in a moment of silence.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We'll now turn to the citizen input, where citizens may speak on county government, usually limited to 3 minutes. Is there anyone that would like to come forward this morning? Right there? Yeah. Just name and address, please. And
Emma Stinchcomb,
Okay.
5364 North Jasper Road.
Okay.
Reason I'm here is because I have tickets here for 6 flat tires. 4 of them were destroyed, and I had to replace them. And at the bottom here, where I get them fixed is Home Automotive, and he wrote a little note down here saying we get many tires to repair because of the rock damage. And he explained to me, usually, sometimes they do puncture, but a lot of times those big rocks, on a car tire, you know, my truck, I'm driving it now, it has 10-ply tires. But my car, the threads in them, it separates them, causes a weak spot, and blows it out. Mm-hmm. And then a lot of times, it'll just happen when you're driving. One, I had it right on the highway, and I had to have a guy come out and get me off the highway. And then, if you need more signatures, I can get them, but I have a list of signatures here of people in my area, and that also, I sent this around, and it says, if you would rather have sand, gravel on county roads instead of the rocks that puncture tires, please sign. Boy, they all signed it. And everybody hates those rocks. And not only in our county, there's 2 on here that are from another county, and they don't like them in their county either. But my one daughter her car's kind of low. She can't drive her car out to my place. I have to go get her because her car drags on that, you know, it's kind of high in the center. And then if she drives on the rocks, she's just scared she's gonna get a flat tire too. So I know that sand is, even the guys that have been working on the road, I've asked them, and they said the sand is cheaper. And I said, why do they put rock? He said, I don't know. They always put rock.
So
And
did you talk to the road grader in your neighborhood? Is that what you talked to, or in your area?
I think so.
Okay.
Well, and they were doing some work out there, and I asked.
And have you followed up at all with the Road and Bridge Department at all, or would you like us to?
Yeah, I went out there. I
Okay.
drove out there.
Yeah, sure.
And the guy upset me pretty good because he goes, I went in, I had the tire in the back, showed him I said, see there, I'm going to take it down and get another tire. Mm-hmm. And he says, well, come with me. And I thought, well, I wonder where we're going. He goes out, I get in his truck, he drives out to the rock pile. And he goes over to the rock pile and picks up a big rock. And he's squeezing it with his pliers to show me that they just crumble. They're just soft rocks. Okay. And I was wondering why he wasted his time driving. I see the rocks every time I drive on them. You know, I don't need to see a pile of rocks.
Remind me your address again?
5364 North Jasper Road.
Jasper, okay, that's what I thought you said, okay. Well, thank you for bringing that to our attention, and
Okay.
we'd be happy to follow up with the Road and Bridge for you.
All right.
So thank you.
One quick question, ma'am.
Ma'am?
Has this incident been recent?
What?
Has this been?
This has all been within a year.
Okay.
Right, but I mean in the last 6 weeks?
Oh, in the last 6 weeks, I just had this one here.
Okay. All right,
Was just last week, and it run 2 of them.
okay.
This last one here, I can't see the date on it, but it was just last week. I had to be brought home from home because I had my donut on. Oh, and that was another thing. The one guy fixed it. I was up at the church here, and I got a flat tire. He came out and put my donut on it, and he could see it'd been used quite a bit. He says, you know, these are only good for 60 miles. I said, well, I'm sure that probably already has 60 miles on it, because I had to drive all the way to Manhattan on that donut once. And, but he took that one off, and then the next morning, I went out, because I was going to Holmes the next morning, and I had another low tire. And so I put air in it, and I got down there, and both those tires on one side, they had to replace both tires. He said, we can't fix them. So I had to have them bring me home, and then the next morning, they had to get the tires in and fix it, and by the next afternoon, I got my car back.
I understand your frustration, and I appreciate your time coming by and letting us know. So
What?
I said, I understand your frustration, and I appreciate you coming by and letting us
Okay.
know. Thank
All
you
right.
very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Norman down in Saline. When will you make a decision on what to do with the old jail? I mean, it's down the road, but we need to sell that jail. Use that money to pay down the bonds on the new jail.
Okay, thank you.
Don't spend any more money on the old one.
Thank you.
Dalton McDowell, Salina. Has Road and Bridge looked at using asphalt millings on some of their roads? Sand's not going to work. Sand will just wash away the first rainstorm. You'll be getting sand out of the drainage ditches.
Okay, thank you. Seeing no one else, I'll move on to the consent agenda. Is there anyone that would like anything taken off of the consent agenda? Accept a motion?
Mr. Vice Chairman, I move we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second the motion.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Passes 3-0, or 4-0, excuse me, Commissioner Hay, I'm sorry. Moving on to informational items. Item number 1.
Jail project update with Philip Smith Haynes, County Administrator.
Good morning, Commissioners. So this is our monthly jail project update. Included in your packet were several current photographs. I think probably the thing that you notice in looking at those photographs is different parts of the building are now in different stages of completion. So in the office areas, they are putting finishes, carpet and tile and that sort of thing down. In the housing areas, they are still working on walls, and it's just it's a much bigger area. It takes a lot longer. So as a consequence of that, we've been discussing at our team meetings really the schedule for wrapping up the project over the next several months. We're still about 6 months away from final completion of construction, but the construction team believes that we will be able to go through the punch list process in different areas of the buildings sequentially, so that we will not have to do everything all at the end. So they think that in the office areas, we can start in about June, punching out that area of the building. And so by the time it gets completed in September, we'll really only have a couple weeks of punch list items to do on the last unit, and then it'll be fully ours. So happy to see that the project continues to be on schedule, and particular, we've been worried about electrical components as one of the biggest challenges, and the main switchgear has arrived in Salina, and the The generator is scheduled to ship in the next week or so. So happy about that progress. I'd be happy to answer any questions, and we'll be back again next month.
And when will this transfer of individuals happen? Sometime after completion, 6 weeks after completion, or?
Yeah, the sheriff is anticipating by the 1st of December.
Okay.
Because after we get full possession of it, then we'll have a couple of public events, as commissioners are aware, and then there'll need to be a period of training and load in and various things. So it'll take a couple of months, but
Sure.
Yeah, sheriff's anticipating early December.
Very good. Further questions?
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll move on to item number 2.
County Administrator's Update with Philip Smith Haynes, County Administrator.
Morning again. So I just wanted to report on Saline at the State House. So last Wednesday, several folks from around the community traveled to Topeka, and we had the fortune of meeting with leadership on both the Senate and the House side, as well as the Lieutenant Governor, and talked quite a bit about Senate Bill 248 that we talked about previously, which would be the sales tax elimination, including the local sales tax portion on food. The House leadership did not seem particularly interested in moving forward with that bill. But I think even the Senate leadership, it had been introduced in the Senate, excuse me, even they, I think, had clearly heard that this was a problem, so they've introduced a companion bill now, Senate Bill 309, which would actually create a fund to backfill losses for cities and counties. That's a noble effort. The risk that I think if you talk to any local government leader, they would say, well, we've been down that road before. There's LAVTR and other things where the state has promised us money in the past, and then after a couple of years, they've failed to fund. So continue to be opposed to Senate Bill 248, but I think no matter how it goes, it sounds like it's going to have hopefully minimal effect. Commissioner Weiss had asked me about the government competition bill. I will say there was not a lot of discussion about that while we were in Topeka. There was a lot of discussion around the economic development prospect for K-State Salina and the potential attraction of the company that they're looking to try and bring into the community. So right before we went to Topeka, it was announced that $2 million had been awarded from the Job Creation Fund for that project, which is a great first step, but we need considerably more than $2 million because we're in competition with the state of New Mexico for attracting that firm. So, but everybody said positive things, and our government affairs representative through the chamber has said that folks made a good impression last Wednesday. So he'd heard a lot of positive talk about Salina around the Capitol building since then. So that's what I have to report on that trip.
Wait. Questions? Thank you very much. Move on to item number 3.
Commissioners' comments?
Seeing none, move on to item number 4.
Announcements?
Well, okie dokie here. All right. We'll go on to our concept discussion, item number 1.
A discussion of budget parameters for 2024 with Philip Smith Haynes, County Administrator.
So I'm back again
Yes.
to talk about budget. Last Tuesday, we talked about the financial projection. And so I warned you that I'd be coming back and asking for a little bit of direction. So we're preparing to start the process with departments submitting requests, and always want to know kind of where the commission is before we start that process. The average, the good news, right, is our economy continues to grow and continues to push up values. So I spoke with County Appraiser Sean Robertson this morning. Of course, valuation notices went out the first of this month, and he said the average increase for residential property in Saline County was just a hair under 8%, about 7.8% average valuation increase. So I'm going to assume, based on past track record, that the commission doesn't want to capture all of that increase and wants to hold the mill levy down to the extent possible. Of course, we just talked about some of the challenges that may or may not come with sales tax, depending on what the state does. So I'd be happy to hear from commissioners what your thoughts are as we move into developing a budget for 2024.
Well, it's always been my philosophy of the 16 years I've been up here is to not necessarily capture everything. I mean, that's the easy thing to do, but just because property values go up on average 8, mine went up 17, so just keeping it the same, that would be a 17% increase in, and yes, we have some challenges, but I would prefer for us to first to look to not be able to have to capture all of that, and in the end, we still have the services to provide, and the public expects us to provide these services, and if it falls that we have to, then we have to. But that's my original thought.
Just a quick question. I just wanted to, going back to, was there any discussion at the State House on that tax relief that they've been looking at, on them fighting with like the restaurants and everything else, that tax bill?
Yes, so there was not a lot of discussion on that government competition bill. I'm not sure whether that's going to advance this year. Since we were in Topeka, actually, I think both sides of the aisle in the House have now introduced some packages regarding tax relief. The Senate has really focused on sales tax. I think the House is leaning a little bit more towards doing something on property tax. So we sorry, not a great answer, because I don't, the sausage is still being made. So yeah.
And the original thought was just to exempt so much more of a house from property taxes. Wasn't that it? Because isn't 40,000 exempt now or something?
Yeah, so one of the proposals is to, currently the first $40,000 in value on a home is exempted from the state's 20 mills for schools. And one of the proposals is to increase that from 40,000 up to 65,000.
Phil, I'm going to ask maybe an educated question, but is there any way to capture new taxes and leave property tax existing alone? Is there any way to separate those as these new homes get built and all of this happens? Is there any way for the appraiser to say, here's how much growth you had? And because I would feel better capturing taxes on new construction and leaving everyone else's property tax alone if that growth, as it costs more for individuals, it also costs more for counties and such. So,
yes. So I'm sure that Sean can give me that value. That new construction, actually was one of the things that got captured on the forms during the old tax lid. But after the tax lid went away and we're now under SB 13, that no longer gets recorded on the state form, but I'm sure it's a number that we could still calculate and come up with.
That might be helpful. That's a good point.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I can certainly report back on that.
Commissioner Hay, I know this is your first budget, at least at the county level, that you've gone through. Do you have any thoughts on this?
You know, I kind of agree with Commissioner Weiss. I would like to see you know, what we can do about capturing that new home tax instead of, you know, trying to you know, to jump on the other tax. The other, just what Philip said earlier, you know, I think we're going to have to wait, or not, you know, not exactly wait, but see what's going to happen with this food tax. What the shortfall is going to be for, you know, for the county and, you know, and the city itself too. But I mean, like you said, being new, I'm still trying to learn, and so that's what I got so far. Thank you.
Thank you. Balancing services that the public expects is always the hardest part, you know. I mean, they're not going to expect a cut in services, and payroll's not going to go down. You know, I have a thought that, you know, there's been a lot about how strong the economy is, and I know the Chamber released some great figures, and the papers had a couple nice articles about it. But what are your thoughts on, you know, is the economy as strong because there's been so much federal money dumped into this place? I mean, we've got 10 million. The city got how much?
The city got about 7.
7, so that's 17 million. That doesn't include what restaurants and PPP money has been dumped into this economy the last 3 years. And just interesting to me, you know, that's not going to continue. You know, and what effect will that have on the strength of our economy here? And sales tax, and then home appraisals, because I mean everybody's flush with, well, not everybody. There's just a lot of money out there right now. So
yeah, well, I think, you know, we talked about this a little bit last week, that I think what has happened is because of all the cash infusion into the economy, that's really driven inflation.
Right.
And then you've got the Fed trying to combat inflation by jacking up interest rates, and that is projected to slow the economy. Now you're starting to see, you know, just over the weekend, some bank failures, and so in the financial projection that we talked about last week, I'm anticipating a small recession for the end of this year and the beginning of next year. I just modeled that in to what I think things could look like. Obviously, I'm not any better at a crystal ball than anyone else, but I think that's just to be conservative. So that affects the county in different ways. It positively affects the return on our investments, but then obviously negatively affects potentially sales tax, and then in the long run, property tax, although it typically takes 2 to 3 years for a slowdown in the economy to actually show up in tax collections on the property tax side.
further comments, or?
No.
I'm not so sure you got totally the direction that you want, you know, but.
No, but it's a helpful thought that commissioners are thinking, let's try and capture new value, and to the extent we can leave things status quo for existing homeowners. So that's a good starting place.
Starting point, because we can all change
Right.
as things are
Absolutely.
are changing. So, all right.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate your comments. Anything else for the cause today? Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Passes 4-0. We are adjourned.